Welcome to the spagirlspodcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
And I'm Trudy J. And this week we are super excited to welcome Anee-Marie Meyer into the spa.
Yay!
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So Anee-Marie, I'm going to read out your bio and then we're going to get into the interview. I'm super excited to chat. It's going to be amazing interview. So Anee-Marie Meyer is the USA Today bestselling author of Sweet Romance with more than 60 titles to her name. She spends her days with her knight in shining armor, 4 princes and 1 baby princess. When she's not running after her kids, I imagine that's a lot of your time, just FYI. She's dreaming up romantic stories. She loves to take her favorite moments in the books and movies that she loves and tries to figure out a way to make them new and fresh. Sounds awesome.
Yes.
So to start with, can you give us your origin story, like how you got into writing and self-publishing? Like where did it all come from? Tell us your story.
Yeah, of course. So I forgot, but I used to write as a kid a lot. I had a lot of stories that I started and stopped, kind of a side hobby. I was homeschooled for a little bit. I grew up without a TV. Me and my sister didn't have one. So try and find ways to entertain yourself. I always wrote stories. So I did start at a young age writing stories, but then like all of us do, it just kind of disappeared with time and school and life and stuff like that. But when I was probably about 14, I wrote a list of goals that I wanted to accomplish in my life, and writing and publishing a novel was one of them. And my husband and I joke, because when we first met, I was working 2 jobs. I was working at Victoria's Secret and the movie theater. And my husband was like, why are you working 2 jobs? Just quit both jobs, work 1 job. You'll have more time and make more money. But I told him, well, no, I had a goal to work at Victoria's Secret for some reason, and I wanted to check that goal off my list. So I was like, you should have known this in the beginning, that I was a very goal-oriented person, because I ended up doing that.
How old were you when you met your husband then, when you're working the 2 jobs?
So when I met him, I was 18,
Okay,
19.
That's right, yeah.
Somewhere around there. Yeah, I got married young. I had kids young.
Yeah.
We can get into family and kids in a little bit. But so then when I was in between, after my second son, I was like, you know what? I think I want to check off this goal to write another novel. And so I wrote for 4 years. And I think it was like that same, you write and then you write all the way through and then you read it and you're like, okay, this is not good. I got to try it again. And when I brought my manuscript to like a writing critique group with a couple other ladies, they were like, so what's your book? Like, what's your genre? And I'm like, oh, romance. Like, I love romance. And like the first opening scene is someone dying. And they were like, not sure you're writing romance here. But I kind of did what we all do, where I just like took a bunch of genres and I just shoved it into one book, because I was like, this sounds super exciting to write, way more complicated than it probably need to be. The manuscript will never see the light of day. But I rewrote it 3 times, but I learned a lot through that. I learned because I wrote it and I was like, well, my main character is really flat. And so I needed to add somebody else into with her. And I rewrote another time. And then finally I was like, okay, I did my schooling for 4 years of learning how to write off and on. I had another kid. And I was like, I'm going to write, I had this idea about fairy tales being not just stories, but actually prophecies. And so I wrote an entire like urban fantasy romance book called Cinderheart, which is a girl who's living in nowadays California and she has superpowers. So it's like Cinderella meets Marvel type situation. And I wrote the whole book. I really, really liked it. Wanted to be traditionally published. So I started going to conferences, starting to talk to agents. I was super blessed that Victorine Leesky read my manuscript and she loved it. And she told me, if you don't find a publisher, then I will help you self-publish this, because I'm self-published. And when she told me how much she made a year self-publishing, my eyes, like that was like the fire. Oh, sorry. I think someone's calling me. Probably my sister. Hold on, sorry.
I'm so impressed that you had goals at 14, can I just say? Because it took me 50 years to actually write down anything, so I'm super impressed.
Sorry about that. My sister lives in Canada, so she's trying to get a hold of me. Anyways, so So I was like, no, I want to be traditionally published. I don't want to do self-publishing. But I was sitting there with going, okay, so you can make money in self-publishing. That's good to know. But she told me that, and I was trying to talk to agents and pitch it and stuff like that. And I gave myself a deadline. I said, if I do not find an agent by March, I'm self-publishing. And March came and I didn't find an agent. And I was like, okay, I'm going to self-publish it. The year before that, I was also kind of daunted by the idea of how do I edit an entire novel. So then I had 3 boys at the time, and I was like, I really like middle grade. And so I wrote a really short middle grade romance where I could actually read it at the beginning and remember what happened at the beginning when I was in the middle and at the end. So I kind of self-published that myself. It was kind of for my boys, kind of a fun, it's Magic Treehouse and Wild Kratts together. So I published that one, and then Cinderheart came around and I was like, okay, I'm going to self-publish this. I self-published it. I did great the first day or 2 because Victorine sent it to her newsletter. And then of course sales died off. And
what year was this? Can I just ask you, what year were you talking?
So this was 2016, 2017. It was March of 2017 that if I didn't find an agent, I was going to self-publish. And then I self-published it. But then I realized that my book really wasn't to market. And a lot of people have to realize that when they write a book, they don't go with the book to tell the reader why they should buy it. So there's a lot of key moments and things that you have to give the reader to entice them to buy it, because you're not going to be standing there next to it trying to convince them. And so I realized my book was a little higher concept, a little bit harder to explain in a tagline, in a log line, and those kinds of things. And that's when Michelle Pennington, Victorine, and I got together because they were like, we're going to write billionaire romances. And I was like, oh, okay, well, can I join you? And that's when I wrote Forgetting the Billionaire, which I published in September of 2017. But the whole summer before that, I was working on Facebook ads because I realized I need to get myself out there. I need to get visible. And when I start with Forgetting the Billionaire and I take off running with that, then I need to make sure that I have all my ducks in a row. So that's when I started working on Facebook ads. So I started my career out right away with Facebook ads, and I was just running ads to my Cinderheart book that I had written. And I remember taking a trip with my husband and looking at him and being like, can I please have $1,000 from our savings so that I can advertise? And looking back now, I'm like, I'm so lucky my husband was like, sure, we can do that. That sounds good, because I learned a lot during that time. So that's kind of how I got into writing. And then I just wrote and wrote. But my first month, I think I did $3,500 off of Forgetting the Billionaire. And then that's when I got my first taste of not only control, but money. And then I was like, oh, okay, there's something to this. And then I think for a good solid 2 or 3 years, I literally wrote and released a book a month, which is why I have 64 titles. I've definitely slowed way down because that's just not sustainable and not something I want to do in my career. And, a lot of people say, well, do you regret that? And I look back and I'm like, I can't ever say I regret it because it built my career. It taught me how to write. I got to write a lot of different genres. Well, subgenres inside of sweet romance. I had a lot of fun doing it, but it's definitely not something that I want to continue doing anymore. And during the Kindle Unlimited, I missed out on the golden years because that was 2015 of Kindle Unlimited, but I was still in the golden, I guess you could say, golden years of Facebook ads, because the Kindle Unlimited pages were rolling in. My Facebook ads were super cheap. Everything was amazing. And then like everything does, things start to dip down and you've got to adjust and reevaluate and try a different path. So that's kind of how I started writing. Now, if you want to talk about publishing, we can, but because I know you said direct sales, so that kind of leads into direct sales stuff. So
I definitely want to talk about direct sales. I just want to clarify a couple of things first on your genre. And so you're in KU. I'm picking up. Is it? Yeah.
So I am no longer in KU because you can't be KU and direct at the same time.
Okay.
So I have one series left in KU that is a co-written series that we're currently talking buyouts. If I end up getting the series, then it will come out of KU and I will be no longer ever exclusive to Amazon. And there's a reason why. It's not that I hate Amazon. I like Amazon, but yeah.
Okay.
I can tell you,
Yeah,
they
tell
closed my
us.
account. They closed my account
Right,
in 2
right.
hours and told me it was after my biggest month ever, my first 6-figure month, and told me that I wasn't going to be due my $250,000 royalties. And it had not the things that they claimed I had copyright issues, which is for Maggie Dallon's series that we co-wrote together. 3 of the 5 books had copyright issues, but not the other 2. Makes no sense. I had emailed them back and forth and I was like, I don't know what you're saying to me. You keep saying the same thing. I don't know how to fix this. And then I woke up like one afternoon, I checked my sales and my account was shut down. And I was like, oh, I will never, ever put all my eggs in one basket anymore, because that was terrifying. And the book that had done so well was The Inn on Harmony Island. And that was a wide release. It wasn't even had anything to do with those. And I was just like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And that's when I started going more wide and looking into direct sales and other options of sales, because it really sucks. It really sucks. And thankfully,
Did you get that money back?
Yeah, so I got my account back in 48 hours. I had a TikTok account that I had been working on, and I posted a video, and somebody on Amazon was sent that video, and she contacted me, which is not a normal thing. You never talk to anybody on Amazon. And she contacted me. She's like, I looked into your account. You were wrongfully terminated. You're reinstated. Da, da, da. And I was like, things need to change. Like, this is ridiculous. Yes, there are scammers. Yes, there are bots, but there are some of us who are just trying to make a living writing books. We are moms, we are women, we are actual people. And you just coming in and just shutting that all down, and not even like, you don't get a phone number, you can respond to an email, and that's it. And I was just like, no, I'm just not going to be exclusive. And now I'm so grateful to be where I am now, that happened, because it really did give me the push. But I was wide with my Red Stiletto Book Club series and my Sweet Tea and Southern Gentleman series. I started that series wide and carried it through. So I did have wide audience, but you're never going to make the same amount of money on Kobo or Google Play as you will on Amazon. It's just, it's a pain, but it's there to start. So so I do write sweet romance, but I write different age groups and some different little bit of subgenres. I write, my Red Stiletto series is women's fiction romance. So there's friendship focused and romance focused, because I'm first and foremost always a romance author. I have a paranormal romance series that I wrote, that's sweet. And then I have a whole young adult series, a Rules of Love series. And then I co-wrote my ballerina series, which is behind me, with Maggie Dallon.
Okay.
So
is that and that's kind of fun though, because you're kind of, there's the overarching sweet romance kind of I don't know, coat that you get to wear, but then you get to play in lots of different genres. Do you think that's a problem in terms of, like, say, between the young adult stuff and the paranormal stuff? Are they the same readers buying everything, or is it different audiences looking for different parts of your
So I think you'll definitely get readers who will follow you if they are avid, like love you, and they will read anything by you. I wish I could remember my years, because I can't believe I've been doing direct sales for a year, but it wasn't last year, it was the year before that. So what was that? 2012? 2012, I did a lot of rethinking.
Oh,
2022. Wow. See, look at, I'm like, so I did a lot of rethinking of a lot of these author rules we have, because it was the 30, 60, 90, right, from Amazon. It was only write in a certain genre, only do this, only do that, and I was just like, I don't think any of that's true. And really what hit home was seeing how TikTok gave insight to readers' brains that we were never able to see in the past. And like, because you could say, oh, well, this book did well, this book did not well, but we don't know why. Well, no, you go to TikTok and they will tell you exactly why. And you were seeing books that were old, like Colleen Hoover is New York Times every week, and her books are 10, 12 years old. And so then I was like, well, if it's the 30, 60, 90, they shouldn't be that way. And then I was like, well, maybe it's more to do with the fact that I am more excited about a new release. And so I push it harder. And once it gets older, I get less excited. I'm not talking about it as much. I'm not pushing it as much. And I was like, well, what if every book I pushed, I felt like a new release? Because to that reader, to that viewer, it's a brand new book to them. So it is a new release. So there was a lot of mind shift change that I went through, and I totally forgot what your question was. What was
I
your
can't
question?
remember it either. It's fine. This is way better. Whatever it was, your answer is way better.
Just for
Okay.
anybody listening I think I've got it, but when you're referring to the 30, 60, 90, we're talking about the release schedule for Amazon in order to supposedly keep the
It's the
algorithm
cliffs, right?
interested.
The 30, 60,
30
It's
90
more
days.
relevant if it's 30
then
days and then
60
it
days
gets
and then
colder.
90 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
anyways,
that's it.
I took those rules and I threw them out the window
Love
because
it.
I was like, it's not true, because TikTok has proven that, because these old books were not, we're topping the charts, selling like crazy. I've learned it's not really about your book. It may be about your book, but it's really about visibility. Who knows that you're there? There's so much noise, and it's finding a place where you can start putting your book in front of them and saying, hey, you want to read this? And oh, I remember what you asked me. You were asking me about changing up genres. And so, like, yes, I do have a YA store, and I do have a like direct sales store, and I have a main store that has every book I have. But I find that readers get excited. Oh, you write young adult too? Like if I'm on a TikTok live and I even mentioned I have a paranormal romance series, I know numerous comments like, what? You have a paranormal? They want to read it. So I think readers are less what we think they are and are more open to a lot of different things. Now I get older people who are like, I'm not reading about teenagers. Like I'm not, and that's okay. That's fine. And there's some who are like, I'm young at heart. I will read anything. But I like that. And I stopped trying to put myself in a box that you have to be this certain type of author. You have to do these certain type of books. However, that being said, I did write 2 full adult series before I wrote YA. So I wanted to have enough for my readers who are adults to enjoy it. I love YA, I do. And so I wanted to also write that as well. And then once I had 2 established series or 3, then it was easier to kind of shift and move. But my paranormal romance, I actually published initially under a secret pen name that no one knew about. I was like, okay, I know all about publishing. I'm going to take this special edition, or this other genre, and I'm going to see if I can successfully launch a pen name. Because if I'm going to be teaching people how to do bookish stuff, then I should know how to do it from ground up. And that's what I did. Now I've pulled it and just put it under my name, because I'm like, it's just one more series for my readers to come into. That being said, there's also a series that's going to be your best series, and that's going to be the series that you bring any reader into. It's going to be your easiest sell. It's going to be probably the most globally appreciated. And once you bring them in and you maintain or gather them as a reader, then you can resell to them. And it's always surprising me every time, just to my people who come in through my Red Stiletto series, I'll be like, hey, I have a young adult series, and my sales on that series go up. So there's definitely, I don't know. I just think I don't believe in rules anymore, basically, I guess you could say. But if you're going to do it, be strategic about what you're doing. If you're going to break the rules, don't just write millions of.
I think it's the old saying still holds out, which is know the rules before you break them, kind of thing. Maybe know the theory behind the rules, so then you can. So
and you're not saying let's write a book in all the genres, and and they're so far removed from each other, because the overarching theme is romance, as you said. So I think that's something to bear in mind. Whilst it might not be a rule, I think it's something that is definitely going to be helpful when you're choosing what you write.
Exactly. And the other consistency is that they're sweet. And so I just wonder if we could just quickly cover off for anybody that's listening that's kind of new to the terms, what is your definition? Because I know, Anee-Marie, that there's different, because often you'll see writers that feature like really steamy stuff will also say it's a sweet and steamy.
Yeah.
So what is your definition of sweet romance?
So my definition is no sex. There's very little swearing and no violence, no gratuitous violence. I have recently started adding or giving spicy bonus scenes, and my spicy bonus scenes are not spicy. Like they are, but they're not. But those are ones that the readers have to actually sign up for my newsletter to get. And it really surprised me the number of spicy bonus scenes that I give away versus sweet. astronomically higher. But I explain this to my readers. I'm like, I'm first and foremost a sweet romance author. It's what I let my kids read, and my kids have read a lot of my books, and I have started that way, and I will end that way. If you want a little bit of spice, you can have this bonus scene, but you got to go through these steps to get it. It's not going to be an open up and all of a sudden, like, you know, stuff's going on in the book. So
do they kiss in the books? Like, is it okay.
In mine. So there's Christian, right? And that's a lot more tame. Mine are like between Christian and spicy. There's a lot of kissing. They're passionately kissing, but there's no talks of underclothing areas or arousal or anything like that. It's just kissing. And a lot of it is about the buildup to the kiss. Normally the kiss happens and then I'm pulling them apart. And then we're going into the black moment. There's also really no third act breakup that happens in sweet romances, just because the lead up is to the acknowledgement of feelings, and then they have to be pulled apart. I don't really keep my characters super happy for a long period of time before they're cutting ties, and then the black moment, and then they're coming together at the end. And of course, you're going to have like a mistaken kiss or like a forced kiss if it's, you know, fake relationship, something like that. But it's all about the buildup. That's the one thing with spicy, I think, is harder to write, because once they've done the deed, like, how do you build that tension right back up without it feeling forced? I love the tension, you know. I love it and hate it at the same time. I'm watching a TV show and this couple, I'm like, just get together. And then finally at 2 a.m. I'm scrolling and searching, when do they kiss, on my phone so that I can go to that episode and watch it. And then like, okay, I'm good now. And then watch the rest of the episodes.
You find like there's loads of different series where as soon as the couple gets together, that you've been desperately waiting for them to get together, you're like, I'm not really that interested in this series anymore.
Exactly.
Like, boring.
And you get bored. Absolutely. I'm that same way too. I was like, now I'm bored.
Yeah. So are there any other things in sweet romance? Like, I'm kind of intrigued about some of the things you were just saying, but things that in sweet romance that the readers expect, like any other kind of tropes or universal fantasy style things, or anything that kind of, that are the unique to sweet romance?
I would say probably not. I think we're all very much it's just about how far the couples go. I do think with sweet romance, you're going to struggle with anything motorcycle club, you can't really make sweet, because being gritty is just part of the story. So I see there's some things that you just can't write. But other than that, you're going to be right alongside. I mean, my favorite compliment I ever get from readers is, I read this whole book, I'm a spicy romance author, and I didn't even notice you didn't have spice. So that is like, okay, so that I'm doing my job. You don't want to do any, the reason I liked paranormal was because you get to write insta-love, because it's it's wolf shifters and they imprint and all these things. And so you can that's really fun to write, that like more visceral. It's a little bit harder to write sweet, and my paranormal romance series is sweet, but it's harder because when you're talking more about like desires and fated and all those kinds of things, like the initial reaction is to do this. It is a young adult series, and I really wanted to show in that series to teenagers, like, you can have these desires, you don't have to go all the way, right? And so that was really, really fun, but it would be hard to do something like that sweet. You have to kind of play that very, very carefully. But it's pretty much writing like any other romance genre. There's probably more tension, I mean, if you think about Pride and Prejudice, the most recent movie they did, and we all swooned at his hand flex. I mean, it was a hand flex, but we all knew what it mean, right? And so we were like, oh, this is amazing. That's what I attribute to sweet romance. It's finding those little details, those little things inside the story that make women go, because that's really honestly what you enjoy. The actual spicy parts are the release of the tension, but what you're enjoying is that build up to like, oh, he likes her. Oh, they're enjoying this, that kind of thing. Oh no, she like, oh, something happened. There's that back and forth kind of thing going on.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. And so you have a newsletter, obviously. You've mentioned it a couple of times. So I want to talk about direct sales, and I'm just wondering, so for example, with direct sales, is that your most important marketing thing? The Facebook ads going to your website, or are things like a newsletter? And do you have a Facebook group? as well?
Yeah.
So is all of that really important too? Like, is this kind of all, talk about those a little bit and maybe the intersection,
Okay.
if that's,
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll kind of just give you like an overview of what direct sales, my direct sales journey. So after I lost my Amazon account a couple of years ago, I realized, okay, I got to think of something else. I'm really good friends with Lisa Vino, Inez Johnson. We had chatted, Rachel Hanna and I have chatted too. And I was noticing that they actually went to a RAM a couple of years ago. And I was like, hey, Inez, how's it going? She's like, oh my gosh, I'm doing direct sales and it's amazing. And I'm like, oh, that sounds amazing for you, but and I wasn't ready to make that jump. And then I was talking to Lisa Vino and Rachel Hanna, and they were doing it. And I was like, okay, I think I maybe need to learn a little about this. I'm really good friends with Kimberly Loth as well. And she was going, like, we go to lunch because she lives in Missouri. I live in Arkansas. We drive an hour and then we meet for lunch, and we were talking. And I was like, I really think I'm going to look into this direct sales thing because my sales were declining. And this is probably what you're going to hear from everybody. I was like, I have more books than I've ever had before, but my sales are dropping and I don't know what's going on. And this was around the time where Amazon came out with this is how many people you have following you on Amazon. I had 27,000 people following me on Amazon. And I was like, wait a minute, if I have that many, how come I'm not number one every time I release a book? And then I started realizing I own nothing. I own zero. I am creating content to feed Amazon, to give Amazon new buyers. I am doing all the work, and Amazon is benefiting because the name of the game in this day and age is data on people. It's not even, yes, Amazon makes a ton of money off of, shipping things, but they also own everybody's data. They know exactly where you live, all those kinds of things, exactly what you buy, how to sell to you. And I was like, I own none of that. And how do I, with my 64 books, reach out to my reader and say, hey, you don't own this book, but maybe you want to. And that's where I was really okay. First and foremost, I hate newsletters. Emails give me anxiety to send because I always send the wrong thing, or I send a broken link and then I'm having to resend emails all over again. So they gave me a lot of anxiety. So I had like 10,000 followers that I had accumulated over time, but I really wasn't doing much with them. And so I was just realizing that if something were to happen to me, I had built this career and I had nothing to show for it. Yes, I had money and I had a small newsletter and I had a Facebook group, but it really didn't mean anything. And I was like, if I want to make this career a sustainable career long-term, then I need to start looking into things. Thankfully, my best-selling series, my two best-selling series, my Red Stiletto series and my Sweet Tea and Southern Gentleman series was already wide. So I didn't have to pull anything from KU. So direct sales just was another avenue to make money. And if it didn't work, I could just pull it all down and be done and it wouldn't have hurt anything. It's kind of a two-edged sword because people will say, well, do you think I should do direct sales? I was thinking about pulling this really old, never selling series from KU and putting into direct sales. Well, yes, in theory, for the couple of months that will save you because you'll still get your Kindle Unlimited reads, it's probably not selling for a reason. And you really want to present your best work, especially if you're going to say, so that website you normally buy from, don't buy from there, buy from me. And then you're going to get it in Book Funnel. And then you're going to have to upload it to your Kindle and do all this extra work. It's harder to convince them if they're not enticed by the story already. So I was lucky in that sense. And I also had taken a year. So it's kind of curious. It's interesting because there was a time a couple years ago where I was like, okay, I need a longer series. So what I did that whole year was I wrote in a series and I made my series long. So my Rules of Love became longer and my Red Stiletto series became longer. And that's all I did. I didn't do any new releases in the sense that it was a brand new book. It was just, how do I make my series longer? And then the year after, the next year, I was like, okay, but how do I sell my backlist? Because if I can sell my backlist, then I can take the pressure off of writing and I can make more money. I have 64 books. Why aren't I not making more money? And you have people like Colleen Hoover, who is selling the same 10 books over and over and over again. There's got to be something to it. And the thing that irritated me the most was when I would go onto TikTok or anything and everyone would be like, you can't sell to readers. You can't talk to readers like other readers can. And I was like, what? I heck is that? That's a load of crap, because I am also a reader. Why can't I learn how to talk to my reader? Like, I don't understand. Like, authors just don't even think you can talk to readers. I was like, that's crap. I'm not believing that. And so I took a year and I learned TikTok. I learned how to talk to my reader. I learned how to pitch to my reader. I studied what other TikTok readers were doing, because I was like, there has to be a system here. And I'm #1 restorative. So I love solving problems. It's like, gives me joy, right? And me and Laura Burton, like, for a whole year, we were like, okay, I'm doing this and I think this is working and I'm doing this, and we're studying other TikToks, and there's definitely a system to it, right? You talk about universal fantasies and establishing tropes, all of those things, because what you need to do with your reader is say, if you like this scene from a movie you've seen, or multiple scenes of this, you're going to like what I wrote in my book, because it's the same, but I do a little twist on it, right? It's a little bit more complex than that. And I do a lot of them through POV, where it looks like, and I stalk my husband a lot. I take random videos of him, because it shows that it's almost like I'm the main character and he's the male main character, right? And so those are kind of gossipy. We're a very gossipy culture, right? We're like, oh, what happened to your neighbor? Like, what happened? Oh, you like him? And so it's establishing that where readers are hooked by the storytelling. And then by the end, they're like, oh, wait a minute, that's a book? Oh, I got to read that book, right? And so it's, you're drawing on things they already know and hooking them through storytelling and bringing them all the way through to the end. I could talk about ad copy for hours. I love ad copy. I love figuring things out. But if you can hook a reader with that type of video, you are going to get all sorts of readers. So I have so many people in my comments who say, I haven't picked up a book in 10 years and I'm buying your book. And I was like, okay, so this video has hit, because you're not only going to get the people who read, so I call them everyday readers, occasional readers, and dormant readers. So your everyday reader is going to be like the one collecting all the books. These are the big book talk people, right? They have all the pretty special editions. You just have to show them the book. You know, this is Jurassic Park meets Barbie or something. You know what I mean? And then they're like, oh, I would totally read that. They buy the book, they read it. They read all the time. And then you're going to have your occasional reader who reads less books, and it's more based on recommendations from other people, right? Or, oh, that's got a movie coming out, I'm going to read it. Like for me, I had no idea what Twilight was until it became a movie, and everyone around me was talking about it. And I was like, okay, what is this Twilight thing? And then I picked up the book and read it, right? So I wasn't like, no, I don't read, but I only read when other people kind of convince me to read what books they're reading, right? And then you have your dormant reader. These are the people who have never read in years. They, and then they're like, and then you spark them enough to be like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I want to read that. So if you can speak to the dormant reader, you're going to cover everyone else. That's going to be that's your viral video right there, right? That's the one that's going to be reaching a broader audience than book talk. So I had worked really hard for a year with TikTok, trying to figure out, how do I speak to my reader? And with TikTok, I launched in on Harmony Island. It got sold 34 in the store, was full priced, and it made me USA Today bestseller at a full price book 2 weeks in a row. And it was all from, I mean, yes, I was running Facebook ads, but it was all from TikTok, because I learned how to speak. So then once I learned that, right, then I was like, okay, I feel comfortable enough, I can jump into direct sales. And I had been working, Maggie talked about Cameron. I had been working with Cameron at a different agency. And right around that time, he was like, I'm going to be leaving. And I was like, oh, wait, no, you need to stay, because I love all the author Facebook ads people are amazing, but they don't know direct sales. No, there's very few people who know direct sales, because it's an e-commerce. This is e-commerce area. And I was like, and we have been working together, and I was starting to see profit, and my Facebook ads were working. And I was like, oh, these are what Facebook ads are meant to do. They're meant to find you sales. They're not meant to get you clicks. So when he said he was going to leave, I was like, how about this? How about, I don't want to step on your business ideas, but why don't you come to the author world? I have friends that you can work with and help us. And selfishly, you will continue working with me in the book world. And I'm like, I attribute a lot of my success to Cameron. Now, I did have a lot of things in place. I had ads that worked really well. I had a product that I knew sold. And so with his help, there's a lot of pieces as an author you have to put together before you're bringing on consultants, right? Because if you bring on a consultant, they don't know your books like you do. They don't know how to advertise your book like you do. They know how to interpret things. Cameron, bless his heart, he raised my budget on Facebook and I was like in panic mode. But he was like on call for me. I was like, Cameron, I'm gonna die if you keep raising my budget this high. But the sales were coming in. He kind of helped me push past that.
And just to
And the other
clarify,
thing
this
was,
is Cameron Snow in your group.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cameron Snow. Yeah. And he's great. He's awesome. But you can't just think I'm going to hire him and all my problems are going to be solved. If you come to him with problems, they're only going to remain your problems because that's as authors, you have to learn to speak to your readers. Or you're going to have to pay a higher price because you're going to be looking for those everyday and occasional readers, and you're not going to be grabbing those dormant readers. That's how I get the low CPCs, because I have a broad audience ad that will attract a lot of different people. And I always say you're gonna have to give either of two ways, time or money. So if you don't have money, then it's going to take you time, and there's a lot like Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok, posting on TikTok. It's time consuming, but if you do it, you don't have to spend the money and you can learn a lot. But if you're like, I don't want to do that, then you're going to have to spend the money. And that's going to be putting up an ad, running it on Facebook, deciding whether or not it's working, pulling it down, and doing it over and over again. And I am stubborn. I also saw, like, I got on TikTok because I saw in 20 books, this girl who was an author came on and she's like, I had my first $1,000 day because of TikTok. And I was like, all right, that year I'm a big goals person. I had said I want to be an early adapter. And I was like, okay, I'm getting on TikTok. I don't know what I'm doing. And my first TikTok videos are terrible. Like, you can go back and see like the evolution of Anee-Marie as she tried to figure out TikTok. But then I think it was April, I had a viral TikTok, and my book, Rule Number One, which had been out for years, it got to like 300 in the store. And I was like, okay, there is something here. And another girl, she hit like 12 million views and her book went to, I think it was #1 in the Kindle store. This was when I was, in Kindle Unlimited. So those are, that is helpful if you want to raise your rank. So yeah, that's kind of how I started. And then moving through, I started my career being like, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say yes. And then if it's bad, I'll learn from it. And if it's good, it will be a stepping stone. So actually, I reached out to Maggie Dowling because she was killing it in the YA space. And I said, hey, you want to be my co-writer with me? And I'm so grateful I did, because we had a friendship, and then she turned my book into a screenplay and we sold it, and it's going to be releasing at the end of this year. I have a movie done.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I can't say where the streaming service is, but you can probably guess. It's a Christmas romance.
Fantastic.
So it's like not saying no to things has also been super helpful. And so when I started thinking about, okay, how do I make this career sustainable? How do I own my audience? That's when direct sales really came to me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And I did start with a very small mindset. I think with KU 99 cents, releases, we think small. And that's how I started with direct sales. I started with a 3-book series for $5.99, and I was getting sales, but I wasn't making very much money. And then I was talking to Laura and I was like, what if I were to bundle my Red Stiletto series and my Sweet Tea and Southern Gentleman? At that point, I only had 3 books, 2 books, 3 books. And I said, and I'll sell it for $25.99. And she's like, yeah, I think that's great. And I was like, okay, but what if people don't buy it? And she's like, well, what if people do? And as soon as I flipped it and I sold $25.99, my ROAS shot up. Like, I was making so much more than I was spending. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And so I really tried to adopt that too, being like, what we think readers won't pay is not true. Readers will pay, or you'll just find the right readers that are willing to pay. My last release for Lucky Charm, I priced it at $8.99 on Amazon and $7.99 on my direct store. And then obviously they can always buy the single items. I price everything higher on Amazon, so my store looks more appetizing. And if they want Amazon, they'll buy, and they are buying. they're buying there. That's the
There you
crazy
go,
part about it.
right?
So
Like
can
in
I,
the
one of the things,
traditional wisdom would be, oh, $4.99 maybe, for that. So
Mhm.
love that.
so one of the things that Maggie said to us in her interview was that she's doing the direct sales, and she not just the sales on Amazon, but she's actually noticing higher sales. I mean, not just on a direct store, but actually higher sales on Amazon. Do you find that as well? Like it's helping
Oh,
everywhere?
yes. There is nothing better for your Amazon ads than running Facebook ads to Shopify, because they are looking for buyers, not clickers. And so even if the person doesn't convert, let's see, 2 days ago, I had a $5,000 day on Amazon, and I am sending zero traffic there. I mean, I am getting traffic from TikTok, I'm getting traffic, but if I increase my Facebook spend, my Amazon sales go up. And if I increase my Facebook spend, I did 5 figures on iBooks last month. And I said no one to iBooks. I don't even know how to advertise to iBooks. iBooks is and the other stores I'm about like 4-figure, like 2,000 is probably my max for Kobo, Barnes and Nobles, and Google Play. I would love to get those numbers up, but I just it's just trail off people. But iBooks is really well. And I see that because people see the ad, they're intrigued by it, and then they go to whatever platform they prefer.
Yeah.
So last year, the year before that, I did 770,000 on Amazon. Last year, I did 1.7 million. And that was with direct sales being the huge proponent of that. And then this year I've surpassed that number already. I don't know where I'm at, but it's
Congratulations. I
accumulating.
just love,
Yeah.
I love this.
Thank you for sharing that.
Women and authors doing this. And
And I love the fact that it's kind of like you've built up as you go, like you kind of you do this one thing and you get the series longer, or you learn TikTok and you make sure that your books are what they need to be, and then then you can do the direct sales. I think maybe some people are leaping into direct sales and they haven't got everything sort of set up as they need to, maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
I think it cannot be underestimated, though, that yes, you obviously have had help with Cameron, but you've put in an enormous amount of effort yourself to really understand. First of all, you've got the great product, right? These are important pieces. So I think a lot of authors want to kind of skip over that, but you've got the great product. You're writing books that people want to read. So
right.
yeah. And then you're putting in that work. Just curious what your top 5 strengths are. So restorative, number 1. I'm guessing strategic's in there as well.
No. So I'm restorative, relator, individualistic, futuristic, and achiever. Those are my top.
Oh, there's that achiever thing. Yes.
There it is. Trudy and I are very jealous because we don't have that one in there. So,
it can be a blessing and a because I'm always like, people say bad things about achievers. I'm like, but you know what? Achievers are never satisfied. And sometimes I look at people and I'm like, I wish I could just be calm in whatever state I'm in, because I'm constantly like, okay, but how do I make it better? And I'm number 1 restorative. So I'm like, there's got to be a way to make it better. And my poor husband, I just take him along on this ride with me, because I'm just constantly like, okay, I want to start a production company and I really want to get sweet romance books into bookstores. So I'm going to start a publishing house. And he's like, and I have learned over time that I need to slow those things down, and I really need to assess whether or not that's something I want to do. But yeah, I find something and I'm like, and that's when TikTok Shop, I had my biggest month last month. I did 400,000, and TikTok Shop was a fourth of that. And so it's a huge thing, but it's like, I can take on certain things, but I also have to have, like what you said, those things in place. So I now employ 4 people that work for me. I have a guy who does all my shipping. I have a girl who comes in and she's doing all my sticker bundles and getting all the physical product stuff to go with the shipping. I hired my son's girlfriend, and she comes in half a day and she does whatever the shipper needs. And then I have a personal assistant that I hired, and I was like, you need to be the half brain that I can't be, because I also need to be, I'm like, I just want to do advertising, writing ad copy, and writing books. And then I have found people to do everything else. But it didn't start that way. I started out doing everything myself. When TikTok Shop started, I was the one, my poor husband, I went on I went to the 20 Books conference, and while I was there, a TikTok started picking up. So he was having to wrap books in tissue paper, forge my signature to get books out the door because I didn't want to turn it off because I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is incredible. But now there is a caveat, just like everything that starts out as new is great, it will start to change. And you have to be willing and able to, one, not put yourself in a financial situation where if stuff does change, you can't, that it's hurting you. I'm never like, do something that's going to hurt you. Do things slowly and make sure that you have, like you said, rungs underneath you to catch you should you need to fall, down. So, but yeah, achiever is a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Can I just ask, because this is the direct sales thing. So you are actually, you've got the copies of the print books that you're selling on your website that you're actually physically sending off yourself. So is that large number of books? Is that what everyone does for direct sales, or is there's other?
So no, so I started ebooks. So last year, the majority of the money I made on direct sales, which I did do 7 figures on Shopify last year, was all ebooks, ebooks and audiobooks. Now I own my rights to all my audiobooks. Thank goodness. I had friends getting picked up by Tantor left and right. They never came for me, which I'm grateful for now, because I am like, having multiple products on your website is the best way to maximize your profits or maximize your ROAS from your Facebook ads. If you have just ebooks, it's going to be harder. You're going to have to work better on your ads, because you're going to have to find only those people who are willing to read an ebook. But if you have ebook, audiobook, paperbacks, then you can hit a bigger pool of people. I don't sell, that's not true. I have increased my sales of physical products on my Shopify store, probably to about 30 every weekday, and about the end of the week, I'm about 100 over a weekend. I do have a special edition box that I send for my latest release, Lucky Charm. That takes the majority of that money. It is harder, and I keep telling Cameron, I'm like, you need to help me figure out how to sell physical books, because I don't want to put all my physical books money in TikTok or faith in TikTok. I need to have control. And TikTok gives you very little control and can be very frustrating a lot of the times, because it's brand new and they're making lots of changes and they're taking you for the ride. And it can be a disaster sometimes over there. But the way I sell my physical products, books, majority is through TikTok, because that's the only thing they will let you sell. But my website has everything else. Over there. And you did ask me about my email list. So my email list for Shopify is at like 24,000 people now. I did hire a newsletter person who does it for me, because again, emails scare me, and he gets them out. And I have seen a lift in sales just by gathering those readers back in and saying, hey, you liked this. How about do you want to try and read that? And I do push people on all platforms to my Facebook group, where I can't always be in. So I have moderators there that help me run stuff. So as you grow bigger, you have to start reaching out and saying, I can't physically do this, because if you ask me to do something, it's not going to get done for a month, because I'm going to forget about it. And I'm like, oh, I'll do that. And then I get distracted by something else. So that's why I have a team now to help me get all the things done that I need to get done, because it can be quite overwhelming.
And how did you manage before you actually got your assistants? Because you might not have been doing the same level, but you must have been so busy.
So I didn't actually hire any assistants until last November.
Wow.
So I had previously been doing it all myself. But you guys, I tell you, I sat down one time and I like wrote down everything I needed to get done. And I was like, I know why I'm tired. I'm doing the work of 7 people.
Yes,
like, no
yes.
wonder I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And so I like when physical products took off, I hired my kids, my husband helped. But I wasn't optimized everywhere. Like I was like, I don't care if this book isn't on iBooks, I have to write another book or I have to do something else. So it wasn't as streamlined as it is now. I would say, like, if you have direct sales, and you don't want to do physical products and you just want to do ebooks and audiobooks, the really thing that's going to be your time suck is customer service. Finding somebody to answer your emails, or where's my book, or, why did, I didn't get it. Well, you put the wrong email address in. Like, that's your problem, not a me problem, but you got to help those people with that. So that would probably be if you are just digital only. And guys, this is a great time to get into direct sales because more and more readers are getting used to this. And more readers really do want to support authors directly. As soon as I talk about audiobooks and how much Audible screws authors over, just don't even get me started on that. They'll be like, oh, I'll only buy it from you, because that's what they don't know that it's not there. And there are tons of authors now in the direct sales space. So readers are getting used to it. And very rarely do I have people who regret buying direct sales. I very, very rarely do I have anyone who wants refunds because it was too hard to get. And BookFunnel is amazing.
Yes.
Like, they are
That's
so good.
Yeah.
So
So
good.
helpful
And
if people
so
don't understand.
expensive. I was like, do you not realize how much you're making authors? Like, maybe don't charge a little more, but maybe, like, it's just amazing. It's an amazing time for authors and direct sales and readers taking back the power that a lot of these things. And I had this like light bulb moment when it came to Amazon, where I was like, Amazon is now my coworker. It's not my boss. So I'm not living for Amazon. Yes, I like Amazon. Yes, I like my paycheck at the end of the month. I don't want to give that up. I'm not anti-Amazon or any other platform, but I don't live for Amazon. I live for my direct sales store, and then everything else comes through. I will say, there are times when my direct sales store is breaking even and the profit I'm getting is from all the other platforms. But when that's happening, I call Cameron. I'm like, dude, this can't be happening, because I got into direct sales to get away from Amazon. So now Shopify, which pays daily, which is amazing, covers all my ads expenses, and I make a little bit of a profit. TikTok Shop, same thing. They pay daily. So it's not waiting. Amazon is the only one who pays on a 60-day lag. And I'm like, let's get going. Why are we doing that? Because I'm pretty sure they're not doing it for other publishers, big publishers. But it would be nice to not have that. But direct sales does have that benefit. And I always say, start small, tweak, learn, because there is so much information for free that can be given to you if you just take the time to do it. And not to get discouraged, because I have videos that barely hit 1,000 views and I have 250K followers on TikTok. You just get up and you keep going, which is hard because I'm achiever and restorative. And I know there's other personalities that are not. And I know Becca, she's like, you can't just say that to people. But if it's something that you want, it's definitely available for the taking.
Yeah.
So do you, with your, getting back to your print books, are you actually printing somewhere in the States locally, I would imagine, and then sending them to you, obviously, and you're storing them at home? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so I have a printer. I actually get my books printed in China and they get shipped to me. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a way less money, even with shipping costs included. And they come better packaged. They're better printed, better quality, all those types of things. But because they come from another country, I have to have the space. So we started like the physical products in my house in one small room and my garage. We quickly outgrew that to the point where now I bought a house that we have a shop on, and we're running the process out of there. But we are now like, at some point we're going to outgrow that, because people love their special editions and they want the swag and they want all the fun stuff, and that takes space to store and manpower to put together. So now we're like, okay, where do we go from here? So we're in the talks. So it's been an exponential growth with physical products. But I knew last year, and I told Cameron this, if I get into print, I could double my income without writing another book. And so that's where we needed to start figuring out, okay, well, how do I sell? I think there was someone in Pierre Gentry's group who said she did 7 figures with physical products in a year, less than a year. Like, I think it was a couple months ago. She'd already done 7 figures. So I was like, so there is a way. I just have to figure out how to do that with Facebook ads, because there are so many more readers out there than we can even comprehend. And I keep thinking I'm going to wake up someday and I'm going to be like, no sales, like nothing. I've reached everybody. This is because your brain can't comprehend how many people there are.
You can't comprehend it. No, it's true.
No. And then now also we're looking into shipping internationally, which I know you guys are international, and it's it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that's where you get those people in place, those systems in place that are helping you. Because if you start growing, you always want to have your taxes stuff figured out first and
Yeah.
foremost. Get a good tax person.
We would literally need somebody in the States to send our books out, to receive the books and send them out, because sending them from New Zealand or Australia is so prohibitive. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
And the book would cost like 4 times as much, So
I still get people though. I'm like, guys, shipping is $70 to the UK, and they're like, I'll pay it. And I'm like,
wow. Yeah.
People will pay it. People, especially people internationally, are used to shipping costs, and they'll pay it, which gets kind of dicey because I'm like, if it gets lost, how do I get it to you? That kind of stuff. But I have all the time. Can I get, because I offer signed books. So the first in my series is signed. So I do a lot of signing of books as well. I used to sign every book, and then I was like, nope, can't do that anymore. So now I go down to just a single book out of the series that is signed, and people will pay money to have signed books. So, which I'm like, my signature is awful. Like, why do you, or they're like, can you please personalize it? And I'm like, it's chicken scratch, but sure, I'll deface your book with my handwriting.
You were seriously blowing my mind right now. You were just like, I can't even know.
But I love direct sales, but it is not for the weak at all. It's you have to be tenacious, and you have to be, you don't have to get to my level. I have a lot of friends who are like, I'm a one-man show. So if I don't ever want to go viral on TikTok, I went viral on TikTok and had a 1,600 order weekend that me and my PA had to do. And it was insanity. Like it was, I got violation points because I didn't get stuff, because TikTok makes you ship stuff out in a certain amount of time. And I got violation points, but I was like, I don't care. I am literally working from sun up to sundown, trying to get these books out, getting them open, signed, packaged. That's when we realized we needed to revamp how we were sending books. We needed to revamp how we were doing a lot of different stuff, because it literally just took off over a weekend. Now that's not a normal occurrence, but it's definitely an option. But then it tells you how many, and this was the In on Harmony that had got me USA Today, and it went viral, and I am selling constantly of that first in series, because there is just more readers out there than we can comprehend. And I would like to say this. A lot of people, especially achievers, they like, oh, well, you just want money. You want money. I want my books to reach their potential. And money is just a byproduct of that happening. Money is a byproduct of people reading your book. So when people, and I hate it when people say, like, I don't need to make money with my writing. I'm like, well, then you're saying you don't need people to read your books, because people will pay you to read your book, or you just give your books for free. But it's not, oh, well, I'm just so selfish, I want all this money. But I'm like, no, I think I have a good product. I want to get it to people. I want them to read it. I want them to bring some light into their life. And in order to do that, they're going to pay me for my work to create this product. And so, yeah. And books are amazing, because you can sell a product that you wrote 8 years ago and digitally, and you don't have to do anything except your Facebook ads. But that's it. I'm like, you know how many companies would love to be at the low overhead that we are? Like last year when I was doing it all myself, my husband was my customer service person, but I was doing it all myself. Like there was zero besides Facebook ads. And I was probably about a little over half I spent what I made last year was Facebook ads. But that's it. Like there's so many companies that run in the red for so long before they turn a profit. We are so lucky that what it takes from us is our time to create the product, and then we can continue selling it for a long time. And to talk about my husband too. So when I started writing, he's so funny. He was like, okay, well, whatever you make from writing, you can spend on you. And so I always remind him of that now. And he's like,
did you get that in writing?
Yeah, that's right. At a certain point, that's just not ethical. You just can't do that. And I was like, yeah, I know. But he was always very supportive of my writing. I feel for people who have spouses or significant others that are not. But he was always very proud of me. But I was mom first and foremost. I have 5 kids. And so he had his own business that he inherited from my stepdad. So he would get up in the morning. It was a poster printing business. So he would print big posters for the University of Minnesota. This is where we lived at the time. They're professors. So when they would go to conferences to get more money for grants, they would show whatever project they were working on. So he printed those. So he would get up in the morning, he would print, I'd get the kids ready for school. Then about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, he'd come up, and whatever babies we had at the time, he would take over, and I would write for 2 hours. And then I was mom the rest of the time. And so it was definitely a slow moving. There was a time where I was doing it all and had babies, doing it through nap time, writing. I did do a lot of writing where I was like focusing on getting the books.
When
And
you
then,
were writing one a month, you said that at one point you were writing a book a month, writing and publishing. What children did you have, and how were you doing it in a
I had
2-hour
all
space?
5.
And you were doing
Yeah,
it
I
in
had all 5
2-hour
by then.
time frame, or like how?
Yeah.
No
So
nanny.
I was writing like 2,500 words a day.
Wow.
And so I'm a pretty fast writer. I've
Yeah.
gotten faster. Last book has been like slogging through it until I realized I had the wrong characters and the wrong story. And now it's going a lot smoother, but I feel like sometimes more time is the death of your productivity. So if you have all the time in the world to write, you know, how much I'm scrolling TikTok or checking Facebook or doing, like, if you're like, I have 2 hours and that's all I can write is those 2 hours, then you go in there and you get it done and then you come back out.
True.
So I just slowly started growing my business. And then COVID hit and his business basically died because no one was going to conferences. There was no one printing posters. And so I said, well, why don't we see what my business can do? You know, I think I was doing 6, maybe 5, low 5 figures, high 4 figures. And I was like, let's see if I can make this over. Well, COVID was bad for other businesses, but authors, it was great because everyone started reading, everyone was home. And so my business just started to take off. And now I'm like, you getting a job doesn't really make sense because so he does a lot of the driving the kids, getting up with them, taking them to doctor's appointments, because I have to be here or I'm writing or things like that. So he is semi-retired, but don't tell him that because he has a hard time with it sometimes too, because he's like, I need things for me. So it's like, he's like, I have never respected stay-at-home moms more than I have now that I have been one. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Being on demand.
It's actually harder, I think, to stay home and be the stay-at-home mom than it is to go out and work.
Yes.
Hands down. Yeah.
Most definitely. Yeah. But he's always like super supportive, but you know, sometimes he's not, but, and I'm the kind of person that I'm like, you're always motivated by something, right? How you write or publish motivates you. It's going to be different from other people. If I wasn't making money, would I write? Probably not. I would probably find something else to do. I love writing. I love telling stories, but once something becomes your job, it doesn't become enjoyable anymore. And so I was just like, I just want to make money. I want to create generational wealth. I want to leave a legacy for my kids. My youngest daughter is special needs, and I want to put a ton of money away from her for her if something were to happen to me. So I have 4 boys and my youngest is a girl. So if they end up having to take care of her, then she's not also a financial burden on them. Like, we have a lot of motivations. And
how old are your kids now? Are they older?
So my oldest is 17 and my youngest is 7.
Okay.
So, and then they're in between there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's actually getting harder as they're getting older because they have school and sports, which take up so much time. Like, oh my God. We're like, one sport, that's all you can do. We can't do more than that. My parents also moved down from Minnesota when we moved down here. And so my stepdad helps takes my kids places, or if we need someone to drive a kid to a sporting event, then he helps with that.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So it's definitely busy, but again, it was in a slow increase over time where we had to make adjustments. And then we were in Minnesota during COVID and we were like, well, if we don't have to be someplace, would we pick Minnesota? And both of us were like, no, I grew up there. My husband was born there. And I was so done with winters, like no more. And so we were like, let's go to Arkansas. Some small town in Northwest Arkansas is where we live now, but the weather is much more temperate and things like that. So, I mean, we've been super blessed, and I'm grateful to. What I would say is, don't start new things until you have good systems in place for what you're already doing. Because if you're adding things to what you're doing, and a lot of times people will see, oh, you're going to hear me talk TikTok, right? And you're like, okay, that's what I need to do. But you have to realize that TikTok for me is 3 years in the making. And it was like, I had my series done, or I was in the process of writing those longer series. And so I had more time because I wasn't having to create new worlds and new people people and new storylines. And I had the time to focus. And then it wasn't until I figured out TikTok, then I moved to the next step, Because a lot of people get overwhelmed by, oh, there's just so much to do. And I'm like, well, it may be because you haven't mastered what you're already doing. If you can master what you're already doing, then you'll be looking around and being like, okay, but now what? And that's when you're like, okay, what is someone doing? Maybe I need to get better at newsletters, or maybe I need to get a Facebook group, or maybe I need to be more present on Instagram. The thing I love about TikTok is that it's an all-encompassing thing. It takes care of a lot of different stuff. One, you're posting on TikTok, which where readers are, even if authors hate that idea, they are there. And readers on TikTok are not on Instagram and they're not on Facebook. So you're reaching a broader audience when you're on more platforms. But if you can have a video that does well on TikTok, if you put it on Instagram, which then automatically uploads to Facebook, it's going to do decently over there. And now you have a Facebook ad. So you can just stick that video in your Facebook ad. So now you posted and done one thing, and it can cover multiple areas, which is really, really helpful. Instead of thinking, well, then I have to post and then I have to make a new one for Instagram and Facebook. I'm like, Or if you post on YouTube Shorts as well, you can post over there. And it really is encompassing. Probably social media, it's probably, besides writing, is the biggest time suck for me, is being present and being places over there. But again, time or money. So you're either going to spend time trying to figure out, or money time trying to figure out Facebook ads, or time being on social media.
Can I just ask, you've spoken about a lot of people here that have helped you or that you've collaborated with them, but did you actually do a lot of courses to achieve all of this thing, like with your direct sales, with your ads, with your TikTok? Did you do any courses to aid you in those?
So yes, I have. Do I think a lot of them bear fruit? No. But like I said earlier, I am not going to say no. I'm going to say yes. So when I first started TikTok, there wasn't a lot of courses out there. We're talking early times. So I actually went to more like the people who are like, this is how you post and stuff like that. They weren't super helpful with me. But again, if you can go to a conference or you can take a course and there is one thing that you learn, is probably beneficial for you. I have done pretty much every Facebook ads course possible. There are some things, like I took Sky Warren's one, that was great. It doesn't really correlate with direct sales because it's just a different, like the way Cameron will get into your Facebook stuff and he'll be like, and I'm like, what did you just do? I don't know what you did, because it's a different platform if you're doing spend money, not get me clicks. Or not spend money, make me money instead of make me clicks. But there were things that I learned from like Sky Warren's course that helped me in my business. Like she said, a company cannot outgrow its CEO. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of things. Like if I want to be the CEO of a multi-million-dollar publishing house, then I need to make sure that I'm prepared to be there. And there was a time where I was feeling real frustrated. And I was like, and I'm a spiritual person, so I was praying to God. I was like, I want to bring my books. My books will give light to people who are in dark times. And I just got this distinct feeling where it's like, not right now. And I realized back now, looking back, I was not the CEO that I am now. And that was when I took that year and I learned TikTok. Because at that time, there was no way I was going to be able to mentally and physically sustain things. And this is huge when it talks about people who have those amazing flash in the pan successes in Amazon, and why they struggle afterwards is because when an Amazon algorithm and TikTok algorithm picks you up, any of these algorithms, I always say Amazon is the grandfather of TikTok, because we chase that high, right? We chase that viral book, we chase that viral video. And so as much as people hate on TikTok, I'm like, you're doing the same thing for Amazon, because Amazon, who knows why they pick what books they do to push, and they don't push other people's books. And it has nothing to do, like we all want to say like, yes, better books, but you take two equally good books with equally good marketing and you say, push one of these, they're going to push one over the other. Why is that? We don't know, right? And so there are some people who will have this amazing success and their first thought is, I figured it out. And you're like, but you didn't. Because what's going to happen was once those sales start coming down, you're not a CEO that can sustain that level of success. And that's when the mental game of this business comes into play. I have had one time, and that was for rule number 1, where my book went to 200 and stayed for months, and I was not doing anything. I released the book, it went to 1,200 in the store, and then I was like, I guess that's all it's going to do. And then all of a sudden it picked up. Why they released To All the Boys I've Loved Before and The Kissing Booth on Netflix. So YA was a huge resurgence. And my book was literally in the top teen romance. Like, it was Jenny Han's book, and then it was mine. And so like I was nothing I could ever recreate or do to make that happen again. But as an author, I look at that and say, I'm going to take that success. I'm going to go buy something fun with it. But no, I can never recreate that, because how do you create, perfect alignment of planets? You just can't. And so I want to always make sure that I'm becoming the CEO in every step my business takes forward that can maintain that step forward before I try to do something different. So just think about where you want to be, and then what kind of CEO would that business require? And now you're like, okay, now I know what I need to work on.
Brilliant.
That's really good. Wow, awesome. So I feel
Wise
like
words.
I could keep talking to you for like another hour easily, but we've kind of reached the end of our time together. Sadly, I'm feeling very sad about that, because you're very inspirational.
Yes, you are.
I'm
Yeah.
like buzzing. So just one more question, just as if the CEO stuff was awesome, but is there just one little piece of advice or one little gem that you can give our listeners, just something that you wish you'd known when you were first starting out, maybe, or just a little piece for us to take away?
Ooh, I would probably say be adventurous, try new things, and question. If anyone tells you there's a rule, that is the way. And I am a big rule follower, because I am number 1 restorative. So I'm like, everything has a pattern, everything has a reason. And I stuck to those rules. And when I started to break out of those, I had someone who told me that women's fiction readers don't want romance. And so I spent this whole time believing that, until I was like, wait a minute, that's not what? No, that doesn't make any sense. As an older person, I'm nearing 40. I don't like just plain romance. I want friendships. I want family. I want healing, and I want romance. I like all of it. Like, we like Gilmore Girls because there's romance, but there's also other things going on. So once I broke out of that, where it was somebody that I trusted who was a giant in the industry, and they said that to me, I was able to push my book in a whole new way that still readers felt, and I was able to reach different readers. So and question everything I'm saying. That's what I say too. Question everything I'm saying. Because, and you have to make what fits right for you. Lay your plan over my words, and decide what you're going to pick and what you're going to choose. If you are, I hate TikTok, I never want to be there. Okay, fine, don't post, but go there and watch the videos, study why things are working, study why things are viral, because there is patterns. There is something that they're doing that people are resonating with. And the other thing is I write backwards now. I don't write the book. I find out what scenes I'm going to use to sell, and then I write the books around that scene. And that is so helpful, because, and most of the time it's this, I will be like, okay, I'm going to write, he's a grumpy cowboy. So then I go on TikTok and I search hashtag grumpy cowboy, or I search hashtag cowboy. Don't just look at book talk videos. And if they're book talks of, these are all the, cowboy romances I read today and which ones I like. No, not those ones. You got to find the ones where people are giving situations, they're giving story times, they're doing those things, and see what's resonating with people, because those are the things that I'm like, oh, I'm going to put that in my book. I'm going to put that in my book, because now I know readers enjoy that, viewers enjoy that, and I'm going to stick that in my story. So when I wrote the Inn on Harmony Island, that's what I did. I had my ad copy, I had the little snippets from my story that I had gotten from watching TikToks, and people were telling me, I'm reading your book in 3 hours. I couldn't put it down. And I even looked at my husband, and I was like, I think I wrote crack, because so many, and that book ends on a cliffhanger. You guys, I'm telling you, it ends on, people were so mad at me, but they read it and they devoured it, because I learned how to put those little bits in the story that drag the reader from one bit to the next bit to the next bit. Yeah. So utilize social media this is a huge tool for readers that I think is or writers that are very underutilized, because now if you can stick these desires that people want to read into your book, it's going to make it a much more better book. And I love it. I go on TikTok and I see videos and I'm like, okay, that's got to go in a book. And it goes in a book because I love it. It gives me creative story ideas of people's just everyday. And it's not other people's books. It's just people's everyday life where I'm like, yeah, that's got to go in, because that's amazing. So utilize social media and figure out what readers are wanting and then put those in your books, and you will make a book that readers will devour and not want to put down.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
I'm going to leave this podcast and go buy the Inn book that I haven't got figured the whole name. What's it called? The Inn at...
It's the Inn on Harmony Island.
Inn on Harmony Island. I'm totally going to buy that book right now, just so you know.
Okay. You guys come back and let me know what you think.
Yeah.
It does edit. You might want to buy the shop around the corner. But again, this book is my #1 best-selling book on Amazon, and it's 3 years old. Yeah. So that tells you all my ad copy. If I go viral, multi-million viewed videos for this book. It's a single dad who lives next door. And single dads are my jam. I love single dads. Those kinds of things. Oh, and I don't know if I said this also, when you're watching TikTok videos, read the comments. Look for trigger words, trigger in a positive way. How are they connecting with the video? Because a lot of times readers will tell you exactly what they got from the video. It also helps you with SEO. It helps you with keywords. It helps you speak to your reader. Like one time it was the elite I saw. So I wrote that down and I'm like, when you want an elite single dad romance or something, like those are things that you can start putting in. Readers will tell you exactly what you want. Now, can you do the same thing with Instagram Reels? Yes, but they are just not a short form video platform, and they are not as good as TikTok in finding what people like and pushing those videos. So even if you don't want to be on TikTok, find a way to what you can go on your computer and you don't even have to search in. You can just start searching around and utilize it for your writing, because it's free. Yeah. And what's going on there, the information there blew. I think that's what exponentially shot my career up, was by searching what readers wanted and learning and not paying attention so much to what authors were saying readers wanted, but going directly to the source. I'm really good friends with Becca Symes, and I did a meeting with her because I was like, I want to be the sweet, clean Hoover. But I also love the author world. I have a group on Facebook called Babes that you can join, Building a Book Empire. I'm honestly not there at all, because I listened to Becca Symes and she said, Amy, you can do one or the other. You can either be, the sweet, clean Hoover, or you can help authors. So I've had to split from the author world because I'm like, I want to be with my readers. I want to write books and I want to sell books and bless people's lives. I love authors though. And I love this, which is so sad because I'm like, I love coming on podcasts and I could talk about self-publishing for hours and hours and hours, but I can't. I have 5 kids and I'm trying to build this book empire. But I do love the author world, but I kind of had to decide, no, I got to be where my books, because I was on the Writing Gals. And then my daughter got diagnosed with autism. She also has a rare genetic disorder. And so I was like, yep, I can't. I have to focus on my family and my job. And I used to watch K-dramas all the time until I realized my career was never going to go anywhere if I was watching them all the time. So I stopped watching them to be like, I need to write books. I need to figure out ad copy. I need to speak to my reader. And then book sales will come.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
I
feel
do
extra
recommend
privileged.
that Babe group for anybody that's interested in direct sales or learning about it. It's an excellent group. So we'll make sure to put a link to that in the show.
And I have to say, I feel extra privileged.
Gals.
Writing Gals. I feel extra privileged that you chose to come on the podcast with us. It's really awesome that you took the time, and we're really appreciative of that. That's really awesome. So where's the best place to, I don't know, find you? Is it website? If someone wanted to check out your
I'm
books.
everywhere. So if you are on Instagram, I'm there. I have a social media person. She does my Instagram posting. But I'm on TikTok. That's normally where I am fully. And I have a Facebook group, but that's for readers. So probably if you want author-wise to reach me, it's going to be Babes. would be the best place. Or I do lives. You can come chat with me on them, not super frequently because I hate them and I hate that I have to do them, but TikTok likes it when you do lives. It's a whole mess over there. So I am over there, but yeah, or my website, email. But just know I can't always get to every question that people have. But the Babes group is great. They're very informative there. I try to get in there every once in a while, but it's kind of taken a life of its own, and it's small and intimate. And I like that because I'm like, not direct sales isn't for everybody. It is really, I feel like for me in my career, it was the what's after this, the pinnacle, the top of the mountain. Because what is going to come to me and tell me, oh, I'm going to take you make for $27.95, you make $27 of that after the Shopify takes its fees. What other company is ever going to give me that much? So I really do feel like don't rush into it now, have things set in place, but it really to me feels like the final frontier. And it is, but it is a lot of work and you just need to be prepared what that work is going to be. But it is amazing when you get over there because the control, what you get to do, how you and then you are so, I am have an intimate relationship with my readers more now than I ever have before because they feel that connection with you. There's not a person in between your reader. It's you and your reader, and not you, Amazon, then your reader. And sometimes it can be a pain because sometimes people are obnoxious and ridiculous and you're like, really? But majority of people are good. And it's nice and it's fun. And they really do. When you make them feel and they love your books, they want to have a connection with you, which to me seems still weird, but they do want to have a relationship with their author. So I'm number one. I'm also a high relator. So I'm very careful who I bring into my circle. So I get almost overwhelmed when I have a lot of people who are like wanting to talk to me. I'm like, like I don't exist. But that kind of thing it's kind of terrifying. But yeah, it's great. Just know what you're getting into before you jump into it.
Yeah, that's
Good
awesome.
advice.
Well,
Very
thank you
good.
so much. Thank you so much for coming on. I've really appreciated it. I'm sure the others have too. So
Absolutely.
quickly, where can we be found, Shah?
We can be found at spagirlspodcast.com. We can be found on Patreon at Spagirls Podcast if you'd like to come and join our community.
Yeah, awesome.
And buy us a coffee. That would be nice.
So thank you, Anee-Marie. Thank you to all of our listeners for listening to another episode of the Spagirls Podcast. We'll be back again next week. But for now, farewell.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.